大家好，我是派多光波的主编、创始人 J。今天我们和一位拍卖行的传奇，也是我们派多光波的新一位成员，是我们的顾问 Mr. Sam Hines。Sam Hines 先生。
你好。
Today we're just gonna go through some of the important auctions and important watches in Sam's career. I know this piece is quite important to you and to your life.
Yes. So my father bought me this Submariner. It's a reference 14060.
Okay.
And it's a watch he bought for me when I was 18. And I think I wore it for 10 years every day. So it is quite battered.
It is.
And back then when I started in this business, salaries were very low.
Yeah.
And I almost sold it twice.
Okay.
And I got as close to the dealer outside of his shop,
Yeah.
and something said to me, "You can't sell it."
Okay.
So I resisted that urge twice. I
Glad
still
you
have it.
didn't.
I don't wear it anymore, but yeah,
It's
quite, it just reminds me of my father, and
Object.
I had lots of happy times with it.
This you got when you were 18. What were you doing when you were 18?
So 18, I was obviously studying. I was about 21 when I started, and
Okay.
I started at the lowest possible position you could be at an auction house.
Yeah.
My title was Junior Specialist Trainee. We didn't have the internet then.
Right.
So one of my responsibilities was to keep the cards
Yeah.
up to date.
Okay.
So basically somebody would come in, and there was no business getting back then.
Right.
We had a counter at Sotheby's on Bond Street,
Yeah.
and we had maybe 10 people a day just coming to us, watches they've inherited, how much is this worth? So my job was to go walk down 4 flights of stairs,
Yeah.
meet the person, introduce myself, take them to a meeting room, and in the meeting room there was a camera above the table, and my job was to put the watch underneath,
Yeah.
or pocket watch, turn it, display it, call my boss.
Yeah.
On the phone he would say, can you hold it upside down now please? Yes, no, yes, okay, say £400 to £500.
Okay.
So I did that for 2 years. And another job, like I said, was the cards. So there was
Yeah.
no internet. So a way that we would determine pricing
Yeah.
is we would have these big blue cards.
Right.
And literally I had to cut out the illustration from a catalogue with the description and take, say, all reference 5110s,
Yeah.
put them all on a card, and then put the prices realised for each one. We would take the reference card out for 5110s, which is the World Time Patek.
Yeah.
We say, okay, in 1998 one made 20,000, in 1999 at Christie's it made 21,000, let's say 15 to 20,000.
Oh.
So basically that's how we did it, and we had these long list of filing cabinets
Yeah.
with cards.
Okay.
So
That's quite interesting.
but it was a great way to learn, because literally by cutting out so many images and putting them down and writing the prices,
Right.
the information sort of, you retain that information.
Yeah.
So, and searching prices on the internet didn't really start until 2005, 6, something like
Really?
that.
Wow.
And we would also call like our colleagues internationally. So I had, for a contemporary watch, I would call the head guy in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I would literally call him on the phone.
Yeah.
We would call dealers sometimes to see what they thought about pricing. And one thing I'm very thankful for is that I've worked in every significant watch market in the world. So I started in Europe, I was in the US for 10 years, and I've been in Hong Kong now for 13 years. So
Yeah.
I've really got a wide experience of these different markets, because tastes do change depending on where you are.
Different markets, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're the only guy that I know of that has worked as global head of all 3 international auction houses.
Yes, I'm the only one. That's my claim to fame. So I was,
interesting.
so I was global head at Christie's, Phillips, Sotheby's, and now I'm global head of myself.
Okay. So after Sotheby's, I know you transferred to the New York office.
Yes.
And then you made a pretty big change of career, because you went from auction house to
The Henry Stone Agency.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is Patek for.
Which is the distributor for Patek in the US.
Yeah.
Their most important markets in the world, Patek has a local distributor.
Yeah.
And it's that distributor's job to distribute the product to the different retailers.
Right.
And when I was at Henry Stone, I think there was 80 points of sale in the US.
Oh wow.
And so basically every week Henry Stone would receive shipments from Geneva, and then it was a lady named Janice, who was the head of the vault,
Right.
who decided who got what product.
Oh wow.
Patek would send 15 5960s in one shipment, And I used to talk and sit with Janice. She would control the product.
Right.
She would do it gradually just in order to maintain rarity or to be sensible about it.
Okay. And this watch is quite cool because you told me that you got it from Patek.
So working at Henry Stern, they allowed you to buy one watch a year.
Yeah.
You could buy it at cost.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
But you couldn't buy a complicated watch.
Okay.
The most complicated watch you could buy was a date.
Okay.
So this is a 5296.
Yeah.
I like this because it reminds me of the great time I had there, because the Henry Stern agency, Patek, is such a wonderful company and they really take care of their employees. They treat their employees better than their clients.
Really? This is really cool. This is like...
Yeah, it reminds me of auction too, because it's, you know, inspired by the sector dials from the 30s.
Yeah.
And there are, you can find reference 96s with this dial layout.
Yeah, for sure. And where did you go next after?
Henry Stern. So I was at Henry Stern for 2 years, and like I said, it was great, but we only worked with contemporary Patek.
Yeah.
And I really missed auction because of the variety of watches that we see and sell every day.
Right.
From Henry Stern, I then started, I was the head of the department for Christie's in New York.
Right.
I think I was 28. And then it was like a record because I was the youngest head of department ever. So that was in 2008. 2 years later, I got transferred to Hong Kong. And that was a wonderful experience working here, because it was when mainland China literally saved the entire watch industry from the financial crisis.
Wow.
So, you know, we had 2 years of troubles. But then in 2010, China changed everything. And literally, we would have auctions with 600 lots, and we would have interest meetings, but it was never to discuss what we can't sell.
Yeah.
It was to discuss, well, how much are we going to sell this for? Because we could always tell how strong the Chinese market was back then, because you know the skeletonized automatic Pateks, for 10 years they were $25,000.
Yeah.
During 2010 to 2015, they went up to 100,000.
Oh, wow.
Because the mainland Chinese collectors really wanted them. So we had, I think when we'd have an exhibition, we had 4,000 to 5,000 people coming to the exhibitions a day.
Oh, wow.
So we had some amazing auctions. This was a collection that named it the Dragon Collection.
Yeah.
It was in the year 2012.
Right.
You sort of think back and you cringe a little bit when you got the Dragon Collection. Oh, why did we do that? But this,
that's a very cool watch.
Yeah, so this was the Star Caliber 2000.
Yeah.
This watch we sold for close to $4 million US.
Yeah.
And it's the first time one's been on the market. It hasn't been one since.
The last time.
Yes, and it represents the highest price paid for a contemporary pocket watch. As you know, the watch was made to celebrate the millennium. It has 36 complications, date of Easter, sunrise and sunset. And it was also where Patek made modern sky chart here. So the sky chart on the Star Caliber 2000, then from this technology and their know-how here, they then applied it to the Celestial, the Skyman Tourbillon, etc., etc.
Yeah, most famous modern watches.
Yes. Yeah. So this was a vanity catalogue we did, which we did for some collections where, you know, it's just a way that...
It's 39.39.
39.39.
Mother Pro.
And it's just a way, the collector has something nice to keep, but then we can sort of send out to collectors and they can really focus on these. And this was Mother of Pearl. Very spectacular watch. Really great. And what was nice about this is when you move the watch in different lights, you got really different tones. So it was super cool. And then here we just did some examples. This is a steel 3939.
That's a steel?
Yep, only watch. This was a 3939 with blackened Breguet numerals.
Yes,
we had a 5016 with ruby index, and then of course we've got the Star Caliber. And then what we did here, so Star Caliber introduction, you know, we referenced the James Ward Packard, which was the first watch to have the sky chart. A magnificent watch, and then of course the Henry Gay Super Complication. Sotheby sold in 2014 for 25 million, not in the Patek Museum, and is not the most expensive watch ever sold now. That was the 6300 in steel. Yeah. So that's a vanity catalogue.
You enjoyed your experience in China. You had a party like from 2009 all the way through 2015 every day.
I wouldn't say it was a party, but some nights we did have some parties.
Okay. Okay. But you had a lovely time in China, because this watch is all about memory. This watch is all about memory as well. To keep the memory of China close, you have bought something
I
really
bought a
cool.
Chinese market pocket watch.
Yeah.
This is a Jacquet d'Or.
Yeah.
It has a glass case back,
Right.
which the glass is from Guangzhou.
Yeah.
And it represents the Chinese market watch in every way. Center seconds, pearls, jewels,
Yeah.
glass. The watch itself is in museum quality condition. And I look at it sometimes and it just brings back those very fond memories of how wonderful China was
Yeah.
then and still is today.
Yeah.
But you know, we would have exhibitions in China, we would go to different places and we would have auctions, and the pocket watch prices had remained stale and similar for 25 years. But then in 2010 they exploded.
Yeah.
Because Chinese market watch or pocket watch, I mean, it's in the DNA of Chinese collectors who have loved watches for the past 300-400 years.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And then this was made in like 1810. And yeah, I just look at it sometimes. It helps me remember those wonderful times.
And you also have two really, really small pocket watches.
That's not a pocket watch, mate.
Oh.
That's a
Oh,
brooch.
sorry, I didn't.
That's a later added
Yeah, that's
brooch.
not a watch.
It's not
There's
Patek.
no movement. That's Patek.
This is Patek. This is the smallest caliber Patek has ever made.
Yeah.
I think it's 8 lines.
Oh wow.
The enamel work, polychrome enamel, is of the Prince of Austria.
Oh wow.
The watch is from 1868, I think. I was watching an auction and this was going for a conservative price.
Yeah.
But the auction house didn't reference the size.
Yeah.
They blew up the image so that you could see the portrait.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a regular size 55mm
Yeah.
hunting cased watch.
Yeah.
But when it arrived, I was completely surprised at how small it was. So yeah, so
It's
I
cooler
just like
that
this.
it's-
Yeah, it's much. Yes. So I wanted a Patek enamel because you know in Asia they're so popular.
That's the hype back then.
Yes.
And this modern watch here.
Yeah, so this is my most sentimental watch. This is a Tudor. So a good friend of mine, Mike Tay, who runs the Hourglass, which many know, the Hourglass is the biggest retailer in Asia.
Yeah.
I've known and worked with him for close to 20 years.
Yeah.
He asked me to give a presentation to some staff on the secondary watch market,
Yeah.
which I did. And after I'd done the presentation, he presented me with this watch,
wow.
which you know
That's
is
cool.
is probably the coolest thing anyone's ever given me. But what's nice about this, it has the year
Yeah.
of the Hourglass. I think it's 41. So 41 years Hourglass presented this watch to clients,
Friends and family.
And yes, so then and Mike gave me one too. So
That's
I'm very touched.
So you had a long-term relationship with Mike Tay, like the collector and the retailer, for long.
Whenever I go to Singapore, we meet. I've been on trips with him,
That's very
and that's what the nice thing about being in the business for such a long time is that you get to develop very close relationships with collectors, dealers, other people in the industry.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. You know, you start working with a collector.
Right.
It's a journey, and I've had journeys with collectors for 25 years.
When I think of you, I think of vintage Rolex because you're a really passionate collector.
Yes, love vintage Rolex.
Vintage Rolex yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's because, you know, growing up in London,
Yeah.
vintage Rolex is big in the UK. In the 60s and 70s, a lot of the UK was a very big market for Rolex. And let's not forget,
Rolex
the company
is-
actually started in the UK in 1902, 1903.
Yeah.
And then Hans Wilsdorf moved the company from London to
Right.
Switzerland in order to save money on the importing of parts from Switzerland.
Yeah,
So-
which is quite interesting
Yeah,
to think
yeah.
this is
Yeah, and
originally from London.
This is a cool watch. This is an Explorer from
Yeah.
the mid 60s. It has it has like a tropical brown dial, which people
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
It comes with a mountain of paperwork, original invoice, guarantee, service receipts, etc., etc.
Wow.
But the coolest thing about this watch is the condition, and it actually has the name and address of the original owner
You're right.
engraved into the
Case band.
into the bands. Yes, you can just see it's never been polished because
Right.
it's still very crisp and.
Yeah. I've never seen anyone engrave their
Never seen
name,
that before. No.
name and address
So,
on the watch, on the case
He
band.
must have been worried in case he lost it or something.
That's, I think, what we love about vintage Rolex or vintage watches in general. Just You can never find these kind of stories.
Yes.
Very rarely.
And when I buy something, I really prefer to buy from a collector I work with, so that it can remind me of them.
Yeah.
Like this watch, this is a 565
Right.
with luminous hands and an unusual dial layout with the Roman indexes of the quarters.
So the 565 is also very important to protect because it's their first sports watch.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So introduced in 1938, discontinued in 52.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot were made.
Yeah.
But it's large. And here I added this gay thread bracelet from the same period.
Oh wow.
But if you look at the case, look at the sharp lines.
The lines are there.
You see it's unpolished.
Yeah.
And the dial is just very
Very
original.
clean.
And it's got that nice warm ivory aging to it.
Right.
You can see the hard enamel signature. So yeah.
It's cool to see how the dial would age.
Yeah, and that's a great thing about vintage watch collecting is because it's an aging process, they're all different.
Yeah. And talking about vintage watch, you brought two interesting catalogs because you wanted to showcase
Yes.
how the auction market has changed on vintage watches.
Yeah. So this is an auction catalogue from 1998.
Yeah.
Do you love the cover? I think there's a cigar, some wine, and then these vintage Patek.
Right.
Back then, the way we would photograph the watches is this is called a plate shot.
Yeah.
So all the watches would be laid out on a table and just one photograph, because then the scholarship didn't exist.
Right.
So that's how catalogue used to look. I remember when I received this catalogue, everybody was wow. But the entire industry was talking about this. This is the Philips in 2002. It was oversized. You have got these wonderful, backgrounds. This is an iconic catalogue, and it also, is where the Baldai was originally sold.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. You've got watches, one on a page. You've got details like of the hard enamel signature.
Right.
And this really changed the industry standard for how catalogues were presented. And then you've got this really nice touch here of the archive.
That's really cool.
Yeah. After this, all auction houses were doing it. Back then, Philips had extraordinary budgets. In 2002, this cost over $100,000 to produce. So this was really groundbreaking. Actually went to this auction. It was packed. This was 2002. Then the next year at Sotheby's, we did this. Again, really inspired by the Philips catalogue.
Yeah.
And this was a collection of 69 watches. A lot of these watches came from a female collector who was the biggest collector in the world back in the 90s.
Yeah.
This is where the first 96 with
triple calendar
in platinum with simple calendar. Back then in 2003, made 1.8 million Swiss.
Wow. It's a very important watch for sure.
Extremely important.
Yeah. And this you brought just to show.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite auctions.
Yeah.
Because I found 4 James Ward Packard watches.
Oh wow.
His two daughters inherited the watches, so I had to go and see them. They had no idea what they had. It was extremely competitive with the Sotheby's at the time.
Right.
But I went into the bank vault, and it was literally like a scene from a movie.
Really?
The lawyer pulled out the bank safety deposit box, opened it, dust flew up, and there were these watches. And they literally had not been moved or touched for 60, 70 years. Just some. So there was a Patek with up and down repeater with a Murat style case, and the watch was in like new condition. And then there was a Vacheron, which is probably the most exceptional Vacheron I've ever seen, made of 22 karat gold.
Yeah.
Even the glass was rock crystal, a grand sonnery, and it actually had a drawing of how to operate the watch, which Packard did himself.
Really?
Yes. So took both watches. I think the Patek was at 200 to 300. The museum bought it back for $1 million US, and then the Vacheron made 1.8 million. And again, Vacheron had to get that back too.
Of course, yeah.
So that was the last time a Packard watch had been on the market.
Yeah.
And that was in 2011.
So as a collector yourself, I'm going to ask a very tricky question. So how do you decide which watches, if you see a really cool example of a watch that you love, how do you decide if you want to keep it for yourself, or do you want to keep it
hard thing
to keep it in the collector's collection?
I'm not a very good dealer because everything I buy I want to keep.
Exactly.
But typically, if I enjoy something for a few years, then I'm more happy to next home and everything. Or if you really don't wear something, then
Yeah.
It's better to let somebody else enjoy it.
I also like how the watches on the table are all about memories.
When I buy something, I want it because it has a memory attached to it or associated with it.
Right.
Because when you look down,
Yeah. You can think of someone somewhere.
yes, like this, Giovanni, how's he doing? It reminds me of the great times I had with him. But yeah, that's what I love about this. The memories that are associated with the watches that one can wear and buy.